found a love like this.
Hello everybody, welcome back to E20 Zone TV. I'm joined by a very special guest, a man who's got his own channel. He's invited me on his channel multiple times this year. Frankie, all the way over from Bubbling Irons. Frankie, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
I am very well, mate. The days are drawing closer. The nights are getting ever so lighter, but West Ham are on the horizon of a cup final. But we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about the season as a whole. I want you to start off with this, Frankie. West Ham United 2022-23 season. Tell me how you see it, Frankie, this season for you.
It's been a very strange season. I would say strange because we've had a lot of disruption in between it. I'll say that with the World Cup break. It's just felt like a never-ending season. But to be honest, to be at this stage of the season where we finished relatively comfortable mid-table in the Premier League, and now we have a European final, it's hard to judge it because our league form's been so poor, and the signs were there early on in the season that, and you know, the stuff that's come out of Antonio recently about Moyes wanting to adapt and trying to adapt to a new style that was going to push us from that top six to compete top four regularly. It's gone the complete opposite way. So you have to look at it that way as a really, you know, negative thing. But then you've also got this such a positive of reaching a European final, which I'm sure most West Ham fans would have absolutely taken at the start of this season. So yeah, that's why I call it kind of confusing, because I think in the league it's been very underwhelming, but we've got this European run now, and it's basically saved a lot of what Moyes has done throughout that Premier League season.
Is it a case of, though, Frankie, for you, that if Moyes wins it, then you can accept a bad season? Like, let's be honest, we've seen enough bad seasons at West Ham over the years. Right? We can accept a one-off bad season if West Ham win a trophy at the end of it.
Yes and no. I would say yes from like an objective point of view, because we've won, like you mentioned, our first major trophy in God knows how long. Yeah. But when you look at it kind of into more detail, we've completely regressed under a manager that spent nearly 200 million, which isn't acceptable in my eyes. You should not be doing that. And I would kind of have understood if our league form dipped off a little bit, but we're still sitting around kind of 10th, 9th and just off of Europe. That would have been acceptable in my eyes, because it was that integration process. We had the World Cup. We had a lot of new players coming in, but the players that Moyes brought in are very good players. So I don't really buy into that excuse of taking time to adapt and that kind of scenario. So for me, I would take the season. I would 100% just take a, you know, complete write-off in the Premier League for what this trophy would bring us. But you have to look at then the long term, because this summer is going to be an absolute mammoth rebuild. And, you know, if Moyes is going to still be here, it's going to make it 10 times harder, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I really do. Where do you stand with Moyes, in your eyes?
I mean, he came in when we were really struggling. We just come back from COVID, and, you know, he brought his ways about working. It worked for him. He got the players clicking at the right time. And I don't think any West Ham would have probably dreamt of the last 2 years, finishing 6th and 7th. So you have to absolutely take your hat off to him for what he achieved with that squad, because he was on a minimal budget at the time. He didn't make any outlandish signings. You know, he made smart signings with the likes of Jesse Lingard. I think Souček came in January, even Vlad. So he had to make smart signings. So that absolutely deserves 100% credit. But like I mentioned a minute ago, you can't then regress when you've spent 200 million and you want to try and transform this club. It's okay for a fan, in my opinion, to say thank you to Moyes for what he did. It worked for what we had, but now we need to go in a completely different direction if we want to continue evolving, because we might actually get a real shining light in the fact that if we win this Conference League, we'll have Europa League football next season. So we've almost got a clean slate in this summer. And it gives us that chance to try and bring in a better manager, in my opinion, that's going to be able to play with the players we've got and then start to rebuild again, because it's going to be a very difficult process.
So if he does win it, and I think it's very much, how can I put this? If he wins it, I think it's very hard for the club to sack him. That's the only problem, because he's give us something that no other managers give us in 43 years. Yeah. If he loses it, I get it. I get the sort of sacking him mentality. Let's part ways. You've done a great time of it. If he does win it, though, would you would you accept that as in just staying here for another year, or is that like sort of like would you be like totally against the idea?
Personally, I just think it would be the best way to move away from Moyes at that point if he does win the trophy, because I think a lot of fans have kind of played on the fact that, you know, Moyes has done really well in Europe, and, you know, if he was to win the trophy, then why wouldn't you give him another season? But in my eyes, our European campaign has become a real detriment to our Premier League form, and whether they're kind of coinciding, I don't know. Whether we focus too much on Europe, I don't think so. But he's proven that he wasn't capable of, you know, managing these top players and getting the best out of these top players in that period. You know, it's not like he came in with 2 months. He's had the whole season. He had a very good pre-season, you know, during that time to kind of adapt the players in. And he made those signings. He made those calls. He had complete control. So ultimately, if he's not the one getting the tactics right and not being able to play the likes of Scamacca and Paqueta, and not really realizing Paqueta was an 8 when he signed him, and, you know, coming out in January, February saying, oh, we thought we signed him as more of a 10. We didn't really understand. That is not going to bode well going forwards. And I think with Moyes, you know what you're going to get with him. And it's proven over the last 3 years that he can be very good at one thing, but he can't adapt and kind of move with the time. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed, because he's still got 1 year left on his contract. Sullivan doesn't like to let managers go. So I think the only scenario where he would go is if another club came in for him, like a Celtic, where they kind of paid off that ransom, if you will. And then we've had to, you know, kind of forced our arm into bringing in another manager.
Yeah, hopefully that's the situation, really. I think if we sack him after he's won something, even though I do want him gone, don't get me wrong, I've wanted him gone since November, but I'm a bit sort of on the fence with it in regards of you can't sack him if he's just won us a trophy. Like, it's just not morally right, in my opinion, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
players
I wouldn't say sack. I think they should just part ways. I wouldn't forcefully sack him. I think it should just end on good terms. Thank you very much. Like Declan Rice is going to do this summer. You know, if he wins that trophy, he'll go on good terms. No one's going to bat an eyelid, really. We're going to get over 100 million. So I think that is basically the best case scenario for Moyes now.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Players wise, obviously Declan Rice is the star boy. Who else has shone for you in a positive?
I mean, another obvious one, obviously Paqueta. A lot of people wrote him off very early on. A lot of West Ham fans wrote him off early on. So it's taken him time, partly due to Moyes, in my opinion, and the way we played and the way we were using Paqueta. But we've seen an absolutely brilliant player in this last 2 to 3 months. And if we didn't have him, we'd be in serious trouble. So I think he's been one of them. Ben Rama in moments, although I'm still not 100% on him, to be honest. I think the praise he's got is worth it from this season. I think he's done very well in moments, but again, it's that consistency you need with those wingers. And Bowen, again, this season's been underperforming. You know, he was very consistent for us last season and the year before. Hasn't worked out for him. So Paqueta's really been the shining outlet, really, other than Declan Rice. And then I guess kind of an unnamed hero, in my opinion, who got a lot of hate, was Thilo Kehrer. And I said it from very early on. He looked decent in his opening games and made a couple of errors, as you probably will, as Agerd has. And people kind of allude to him as this really good centre-back. So I don't think Kehrer's done worse than Agerd. It might be a bit of a controversial take, but I don't think he's done that badly. And I think he's been asked to play in a lot of positions. You know, he's asked to play right back. He's been playing centre-back in a back four. He's played centre-back in a back three. He's even played left-back away at Leeds. So he's very much had to fill in, if you will say that. He hasn't really had a run of consistent games in his best position, which is probably, you know, right centre back in a back three. So I think he's come in, he's done well, and, you know, late on in this season, he's really come in because Kufal got injured, and I remember a lot of fans at the time saying this is a real big problem because, you know, Kufal was a very good player, and, you know, he's been pretty much our solid right back when Ben Johnson hasn't been kind of firing this season. So Kehrer slotted in there in the past couple of months and done really well. So yeah, Thilo Kehrer for me would kind of be my unsung one, but Paqueta obviously the big one.
Who's disappointed you the most this year, mate?
You would kind of have to say Bowen. I think just purely because of the numbers he was producing for us before, and his performances have dipped. You know, it wasn't kind of he was doing numbers last season, but his performances weren't great. His performances were really good last season. So he's been the one. To be honest, I expected more from Aged. He came in with a lot of hype at the time. Obviously, he got a really bad injury at the start, so
Yeah.
it's definitely impacted him. And obviously, West Ham struggling. Obviously, he went to the World Cup halfway through, got to the semi-final. So there's been a lot of factors into why it probably hasn't worked out as well as it could have done for Aged. But I would say I've been slightly disappointed with him. And who else? I would say... Yeah, I would say Bowen. I think Bowen is the main one. And then, I guess Danny Ings is another one that hasn't really done much since signing.
Yeah.
But I would say Bowen is the big one, really.
I think the Aguerd one, because I back Aguerd quite a lot. And I think I think a lot of people sort of jump on him a little bit because he's not like, how can I put this? Like he's arrived at West Ham, he's been injured, he goes to the World Cup, he gets injured at the World Cup, he comes back. Give him a full season, and I think that's the only way we can assess him, really. I think this season he's been good in moments, don't get me wrong. Remember the tackle at Newcastle? I thought he was absolutely excellent in that game. Yeah. But then he's had some howlers, don't get me wrong. I can't... If I'm going to praise him, I'll praise him. If I'm going to ridicule him, I will do. And he has been bad in moments.
I think for kind of just the back four in general, and especially the centre backs, we haven't really had a settled pairing. Like you mentioned with the injuries, Aged's been injured for a lot of it. Zuma again, another one. He hasn't really partnered much, and only till the back end of this season we've seen that partnership where we've been our best defensively when it's been them two. So. You've had such a chop and change. I mean, we had Craig Dawson to start. I mean, people probably forgotten that by now. Ogbonna's had to come in. He wasn't expected to even play really with the age he's at and the injuries he's had. And then you've got Thilo Kehrer again, I mentioned, kind of fiddling. So we've had 5 centre-backs really that have been trying to find a solution, A, to the tactics we were playing, and B, like you mentioned, those injuries. So I'm on board with you. I really like Aged. He's got pace. He's really good at those tackling situations where we need to get out of danger. Excellent passing range. He will play through the lines, which we want to start doing. So no doubt he's a top quality centre back. I just hope he shows it more next season. Yeah,
I agree with you, mate. I agree with you. The only thing with Aguerd that I will say before I move on is that he's a bit weak in the air. If he can sort his aerial problems out, I think we've got a quality defender on our hands. We really do. Yeah. How do we approach Fiorentina in Prague, Frankie? How would you approach this game in your eyes?
For me, there needs to be a balance. A cup final is very difficult to manage, regardless of what competition you're in and who you're up against. But I think the magnitude of it being West Ham's first major final in so long, the expectation now amongst West Ham fans that we can go on and win this. And, this is pretty much a 50-50 in my opinion. And I think the bookies are kind of having it that way as well. Maybe us as slight favourites. But you look at a Fiorentina side that are excellent going forwards. They will cause us a lot of problems if we just sit off and just let them play. So there needs to be a balance. And kind of what I'm saying there is I don't think we should go out and try to control the game because A, Moyes can't do it. And B, Fiorentina will play through us. So for me, there needs to be an element of Moyes' pragmatism where we kind of sit in and be kind of resilient, but we can't just sink back like we have done. You look at those kind of big away games every season under Moyes. When you go to Liverpool, Arsenal, United, we'll always play the same way with a lack of kind of confidence and self-belief in our own attacking ability. So what I don't want to see is we sit in and it continues to be 0-0, whatever it is. We keep it tight and we try and sit off like we did in the first leg against AZ. That game there, we should have been a lot more effective going forwards, and we weren't because we were scared. We were scared to attack, and if we get scared to attack, we'll get stage fright in the final, and Fiorentina will play through us. So we need to be smart. But Fiorentina defensively are not great, and especially in transition. So that is where we're going to hurt them because we have excellent transition players. So we have to play to our strengths in the final. I don't think we should go and try and control it. I think there needs to be an element of respect to Fiorentina. We need to be very, defensively sound, but we need to pick our moments and we can't just, be giving the ball back to them to recycle it, 50 times.
Yeah, I hear you, mate. The only thing with it, Frankie, is this. For me, I would like to see West Ham attack this game from the front. Like, I think if you allow Fiorentina too much of the ball, you're respecting the team too much. Eventually, good teams will pick through West Ham. Yeah, because West Ham ain't unbeatable when it comes to sort of like defending certain moments. Do you know what I'm saying? For me, I just hope West Ham don't get caught like between a rock and a hard place where in one moment they're defending so much and they're thinking more about the defensive side and then forgetting how to attack Fiorentina. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If this was a Premier League game, I would look at it a bit different. I'd say, yeah, right, you can calculate a bit more. Where it's a knockout game, people say, well, it's knockout football. You can do that. I disagree. I'd rather my team go for it. And listen, if West Ham go down fighting, then so be it. But if West Ham sit there and wait to, I ain't gonna say concede, but wait, like it's like playing possum all the time, waiting to see what happens. Like I'd rather be West Ham be proactive than reactive, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? How do you see on that?
No, I do understand what you're saying. I think it's a very difficult situation for Moyes to be in, to be honest. I do kind of empathize with him on that situation because it is a massive game. And if we go out and, like you mentioned, attack the game, on the front foot, pressing high, and we get caught out early on, we are so bad at breaking teams down. If they go 1-0 up, they can then just be a little bit more compact. They've got pace on the wings to hurt us with Gonzalez. They've got Kone. They've got Bonaventura in the middle. That's a very good technician. They've got Cabral as their striker. They've got Amrabat in midfield, who's very good on the ball. So they've got the players that can play through us very easily. And I think we've seen that in many games this season where we go a goal down. It's very difficult for us to find a way back into a match unless it's a set piece or a moment of brilliance. How many times did, look at Leeds away, Skamaka's long shot, Paqueta scored a penalty in that game. Ben Rama's done it countless times this season. So for me, I would like the first 10, 15 minutes to be an element of caution. I wouldn't say absolutely pragmatic. I would say just fill them out, see what they're playing like, but also give them something to think about. Don't just, like you mentioned, be that defensive unit. We need to show what we can do attacking. We need to make them scared of those transitions early on because it'll give West Ham the respect that we need to be given in that match. Because if we let Fiorentina just play and not really threaten, then we're going to struggle, like you're mentioning. So I think there needs to be a balance between the two.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. Totally agree. Moving on to this starting lineup in Prague for you, Frankie. What would you say would be your starting 11?
It's tough because there's a few positions that you asked me this question 2 months ago. I would have said, absolutely they shouldn't be in the lineup, but I just think we're at this point now where if we try and change it too much, it's going to disrupt it. So we need to kind of stick with what's worked and what works for Moyes the best. So I would go with Areola in goal. Obviously, Klopp goalie, our best goalie in my opinion. And then I would go Kufal right back. As good as Kerr has been slotting back in there, Kufal's just a better right back than Kerr is. And then you've got the partnership of Zuma again. And then again, if you'd have asked me this a couple of months ago, I would have gone Emerson left back. But for me, Cresswell has to go in there based on his last month or so of performances. And Emerson's been caught out defensively a few times in recent matches he's played in. So I think we need a bit more reliability there with Cresswell and someone Moyes trusts a bit more. The midfield three picks itself at the moment, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you look at it, with Rice, Souček, Paqueta. I would love to have Fornals in that middle, especially against a team like Fiorentina. I think Fornals, Paqueta, Rice would be an absolutely brilliant midfield to match up against them. And like I mentioned before, be able to transition, because then I'd have a front three of Benrahma, Bowen, and Antonio, excellent in transitions. You've got Benrahma's dribbling ability and creativity. You've got Bowen's directness and, indirect behind threat. And you've got Antonio turning defenders. So for me, I don't see Moyes going away from Souček in the middle. I think Fornals has given him a little bit something to think about, but it will be Fornals or Benrahma. It won't be in the middle. So I would go with Benrahma over Fornals. Just, I think from a cup final perspective, he's more likely to have that magical moment than Fornals. Maybe more consistently through the 90 minutes. Fornals might contribute more, but Benrahma can win you a game. And he's shown us that throughout this season, and we need that in a cup final. So yeah, I would go Benrahma, Bowen, Antonio, and then the midfield three will stay the same.
A few questions from me before I get your prediction, mate. First off, number one, Areola. Obviously he starts, but if it goes to penalties, do you bring Fabianski
on? No, I don't. I think a lot of people have said they would. I understand why, because I don't think Areola saved a penalty for us or ever in his career. Fabianski obviously much better record from penalties, but I just think it adds so much more pressure in that moment. And it can either work, it can either pay off really well, or it will just be something that people use against Moyes if we lose on penalties.
But
And I feel like,
is it in a way though, Frankie? Yeah, because I know you're saying about pressure, but does it swing the other way and all that Fiorentina have see our goalkeeper coming on to be the penalty stopper? They're in their minds are going to think, "Wow, this guy's good at pens. That's why they bring him on." Like, I
yeah.
understand what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, but then I look at it from the other side. I think, how can I put this? If Fabianski does not get on the pitch, it goes to penalties, and everyone knows that Ariola's awful at penalties.
Yeah.
Then it's like Moyes is literally hanging himself. Like, do you know what I mean? Like pulling himself up, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you. To me, it's a difficult one because it can either, like you mentioned, it can work both ways. It can either put pressure on Fiorentina if Fabianski comes on, or
Yeah.
it can actually add a little bit more pressure to the goalkeeper, Fabianski himself. That's my only concern I'd have with it. Someone that's 37, 38 years of age coming on in the very last minute of a European final to try and save penalties and win us the match. Does that add a little bit more pressure onto Fabianski? Whereas Areola, who's played 120 minutes in the match and has that free license to just try and save penalties. I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched every single penalty Areola's faced because I haven't, but I just know his record isn't great. Fabianski's record's a bit, it is good, especially for West Ham. He saved a lot of penalties over the years, but I would still personally just stick with Areola. I don't necessarily think that Fabianski is that good at saving penalties that it's worth subbing on, but I can see the argument for it. I wouldn't be opposed to it happening. I think it would just depend on the moment. It's really just a 50-50 at that point.
Yeah. Also, Cresswell, it's a massive game for him. Obviously, a year ago, he gets subbed twice in 3 European games.
Yeah,
literally, and it's a huge game for Cresswell, isn't he? He's got to turn up. He's got to make sure he stays at the limelight, because don't get me wrong, after last year, I wanted Cresswell out the door. I really did. I just said, you know what, it's time to have a change. I'll be honest, this year he's been okay. I ain't gonna say he's been wonderful, but I ain't gonna say he's been bad. He's just been okay in my eyes. How much of a big game is it for him, mate?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been horrific this season. Obviously, the memories of the Europa League last season are fresh in West Ham fans, minds still. What he did against Lyon and also in the semi-final against Frankfurt. But for me, coming up against someone like Gonzalez, who is an excellent winger on the right wing, Emerson scares me more than Cresswell from a defensive point of view, which I never thought I would really be saying when you're comparing Cresswell to someone. But I just think it is, like you mentioned, is a massive game for Cresswell. But, he's got that contract extension now for another year. And he'll be more than anyone willing, wanting to put this right for West Ham. So I think he's been an excellent servant for the club. I agree. I probably think this summer it should have been the time to kind of let go of Cresswell and bring in someone fresh. But I can understand why it's been renewed. And I think this game is massive for him, and I hope he has a good game, because it would end that kind of hatred, if you will, from a lot of West Ham fans for what happened last year, and it would then allow him to leave on more of a positive note when he does eventually leave the club. He's been here nearly 10 years, and that's testimonial time. So I hope he does get it right in the final. And it's a massive game.
So he can right the wrongs. Aaron Cresswell, I agree, mate. Finally, prediction time. Frankie, what we saying?
I do not think we'll keep a clean sheet. I think we'll be very, very fortunate if we do, against a Fiorentina side playing how they are. They played in the final, last Coppa Italia final, I think it was, against Inter Milan last week, and caused them so many problems. Not in the first half, but second half, they could have scored 3 or 4 goals, and they should have scored 3 or 4 goals. So we're going to have to just outscore them. We're going to have to be clinical in our moments. You look at the likes of Benrahma and Bowen for those moments. They have to take their chances. Bowen has been someone that hasn't taken his chances much this season. He's very much underperformed in terms of the expected goal stats and all of the other statistics underneath it. Benrahma has been more clinical, and we need that clinicalness. We need that killer instinct in front of goal. So for me, it really depends on how we approach the game and whether we're not scared enough to attack Fiorentina in transitions and beat them in that when they're kind of pushing up high. So for me, if we get it right, we'll win 2 or 3-1. If we don't get it right, I can see it being 1-0 to them. But I'm gonna stay hopeful. I think we will be clinical enough to win the match. So for me, I'm gonna go 2-1 West Ham. Benrahma to grab one, and I actually think Antonio will get one as well. So that's my prediction.
Ooh, 2-1. For me, as I've said it to everyone, so I say it to you before I wrap this up. I think it goes all the way to pens, mate. I don't know why.
Really?
Yeah, the reason why I say that is because I don't feel West Ham have got 2 goals in them against this side. I don't know why. I feel like it's going to be a tighter game than everyone thinks. I think West Ham are going to if they play the Moyes way, they're going to be playing a team where they're going to fear not to lose it. But then they ain't going to have the bottle to go there and try and win it, if that makes sense. I think they're going to try and cancel each other out. It is the best team West Ham's played in this competition. And obviously, we're going to have a real test in this game. Yeah. Is this, can West Ham beat the team in 90 minutes? I think they can. But West Ham have beaten better sides over the last 2 years. And I know West Ham can beat this side, but it's just whether West Ham turn up. If West Ham turn up and they're on it, they should go through Fiorentina, in my opinion.
It's the pressure of the final, isn't it? We don't really know. This group of players haven't been tested in a final. We haven't seen it. We've seen them get past the semi-final test this season. We've seen us progress, but again, like you mentioned, Fiorentina is a very different outfit to what we've faced so far in the competition. So yeah, it's going to be tough. It just comes down to who's more clinical for me. I think that we will give up chances. But I think I really do think they're going to give us some chances in this match. I think we just have to take them. So I think the chances will be there for us to score 2 or 3 goals. It's just whether we take them. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of leaning towards 2-1.
Yeah. Let's hope you're right, mate. Let's hope you're right. And that's been your sort of fan review or preview, so to speak, of Fiorentina West Ham next week. It's going to be a massive game next week, I will say that. And whatever happens, it's going to be tears of joy or tears of sadness. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let's hope, for God's sake, that West Ham do get it done, because if we do win a trophy, it'll be the first time in 43 years. And all I've ever wanted is West Ham to win a trophy, and we're 90 minutes away. So, Frankie, thank you very much for coming on, mate. I really do appreciate it from you.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Go and follow Frankie on Bubbling Irons. Link is in the description above. Click on it. Go over there. Subscribe to the lad's channel. He's got a few good lads on there who are proper West Ham fans. They do a lot of analysis stuff over there. Go over there. Subscribe to their channel. Get them up to the 1,000 mark. Because if that's one YouTube channel that deserve it, it's Bubbling Irons. Yeah, because they are grafting. They are trying to get to that level. Do you know what I mean? So, from me, go over there, subscribe to them, help them out. It goes a long way, trust me. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm lining something up tomorrow. I've got Jess and Harry on tomorrow night at 6:30. So do check it out here on E20 Zone TV. Subscribe if you're new to the channel here. Also subscribe to that man's channel over there. Anyway, I'm going to love and leave you. Me and Frankie, I've got places to go, people to see, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Peace.
I've never found a love like this.